welcome back to my channel. If you are like me and you are a dark romance girly through and through, this video is definitely for you because I'm going to be taking you through my favourite book recommendations in the dark romance genre. I love books that are a little bit dark and quite unhinged, so if you're like me and you like those kind of books as well, definitely keep watching as I've got some really good book recommendations for that type of genre. As always with these books, they do come with quite a few triggers, so if you are new to reading these kind of books, or you have any triggers in general, just make sure to read the trigger warnings at the start of the book just in case. But if you're like me and you like a little bit of a surprise, then skip past that and let the book surprise you. So I am going to do it by author. So the first author is H.D. Carlton, and she is one of my favourite authors of all time. All 5 books here on the screen are part of the same world and part of a series, so it is really important that you do read these in order to avoid spoilers. The order of the books on the screen is how I read them. So I read Satan's Affair, Haunting Adeline, Where's Molly, and then Phantom last. This is because Phantom only came out recently. However, Phantom is set way before the rest of these books, so if you do want the best reading experience, I would definitely recommend reading Phantom, then Satan's Affair, then Haunting Adeline, then Hunting Adeline, and then Where's Molly last. These books are the perfect blend of romance, thriller, and psychological horror. And some key tropes from these books would be stalker, revenge, obsessive, and touch her and die kind of vibe. The Cat and Mouse duet are definitely my favourite books. I actually have a tattoo for this book as well, and it will always be one of my faves. So if you think this is something that you would like, definitely give it a read and make sure to read all of the books in the series. Then we have 2 standalones by H.D. Carlton, the first one being Does It Hurt? Does It Hurt is about a woman named Sawyer who is on the run and she meets a mysterious man named Enzo. Her life takes a turn when they end up shipwrecked on a remote island after surviving a storm. The tropes and themes of Does It Hurt include enemies to lovers, forced proximity, survival, revenge, toxic attraction, and there's also a little bit of horror vibe in there as well. And then we have another standalone named Shallow River, which follows a story of a girl named River who is in an extremely abusive and controlling relationship. This story is all about River's survival, how she gets out of the situation, and how she heals from the trauma that she has succumbed to. The key tropes and themes in Shallow River include toxic love, ex's brother romance, survival, revenge, and trauma and healing journey. And then we have the interconnected standalones by Navessa Allen, Lights Out and Caught Up. Lights Out follows the story of a nurse named Ali who becomes the target of an anonymous masked man. The tropes and themes of this book are stalker romance, obsessive MMC, morally grey characters, and dark desire. And then Caught Up follows the story of a man named Junior who is tied to a violent and dark mafia world. Junior is Ali's cousin from Lights Out, so it is best to read Lights Out first and then Caught Up. Even though they are interconnected standalones, there is a crossover of characters mentioned in both books, so that's just best. The themes and tropes in Caught Up include second chance romance, and obsessive MMC, some kink dynamics, and then also mafia as well. And then we have the Edge of Darkness trilogy by Lee Rivers, and also the Edge of Darkness novel, Psychotic Obsession, which is a prequel to the trilogy. So I would recommend reading this first as it's set before the trilogy. The trilogy follows the love story between a girl named Stacey and a guy named Cade. They are 2 very damaged people who are thrown into a world of trauma and pain. And then the themes and tropes can include obsessive love, trauma bonding, captivity and control elements, as well as survival and revenge. These books are honestly heartbreaking and absolutely soul destroying. I am very sure that they broke me in half and put me back together again. So definitely have tissues ready for reading this, as I think I cried throughout every single book. But don't let that put you off. There is a happy ending. It just takes a lot of trauma to get to that point. Then we have The Web of Silence duet by Lee Rivers, which consists of books Little Stranger and Little Liar. This story focuses on the intense and taboo relationship between foster brother and sister Malachi and Olivia. There is a crossover of characters between the Web of Silence duet and the Edge of Darkness trilogy, so you are best reading the Edge of Darkness trilogy first before reading the Web of Silence duet. The tropes and themes include forbidden relationship, foster brother and sister relationship, obsession, stalker elements, and revenge. And then we have the Devil's Night series by Penelope Douglas. Now, this is a 6-book series. Each book follows a couple. However, they are all interconnected, so it is best to read in the order on the screen. The series follows a group of 4 men who are wealthy and are known as the Horsemen. The tropes and themes throughout the whole series can include revenge, morally grey characters, brotherhood, trauma, secrecy, and enemies to lover tropes. Then we have some standalone books by Penelope Douglas. Now, these are all separate, don't need to be read in any particular order. They are all their own story. Punk 57 is about a boy and a girl who are pen pals and are writing to each other for years on end, and they actually end up falling in love. Birthday Girl is about a girl and her boyfriend who move into his dad's house, but her and the boyfriend break up. And yeah, I guess you can kind of imagine where that one's going, so I'll leave that there. 5 Brothers follows the story of a girl named Christian and her intense involvement with the Jaeger family, which is 5 loyal and close brothers. And then Credence follows the story of a young girl whose parents sadly pass away, and she ends up moving in with her step uncle and her 2 step cousins. And the tropes and themes that you can find throughout all 4 of these books are things like forced proximity, taboo relationships, a small town, and slow burn romance. Then we have the Lord series by Chantal Tessier, which is currently a 7-book series. You should read in the order that's on the screen. The Lord series is a dark college romance centred around an elite and secret society known as the Lords. These tropes and themes include power and control, revenge, corruption, trauma, manipulation, obsession, and privilege and class. These are definitely on the darker side, so for all these books, read your trigger warnings, but especially these ones, as it does have a lot of darker themes. Then we have the Dark Kingdom series by Chantal Tessier, which includes 5 books. You should read in the order that's on the screen. The Dark Kingdom books are a dark romance series that are centred around a group of wealthy and powerful men known as the Kings. The tropes and themes throughout these books can include power, control, violence, brotherhood, trauma and damage, and some elements of mafia as well. And then finally, we have a standalone named Slaughter by Chantal Tessier, and also a duet, Addiction and Obsession. Slaughter is a dark revenge romance that follows the story between a man named Avery and his ex named Presley. The tropes in Slaughter include obsession, revenge, trauma, power and control, ownership, and second chance. And then lastly, we have the 7 Deadly Sins series, which includes books Addiction and Obsession, and these have very similar tropes and themes to Slaughter. And that is all I have for my book recommendations at the moment, so thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.